Hello, this is Piyush Chaudhary, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Hansraj College, University of Delhi, welcoming you all to Hansraj e-Samvaad, the center established under the aegis of Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching under the Ministry of Education, Government of India. As we all know, we are in the midst of the ongoing lecture series on readings on Indian diversity and literary movements, and today our discussion will focus on the Baul section of the folk tradition and on the Baul songs which originally originated in Bengal area. So this song which is there in our syllabus is basically an unnamed song. It was composed by an anonymous composer and we do not really know who composed this song. So this particular song is basically a song sung by people of the Baul mystic tradition. These mystics are usually called as Baul saints only, in sectarian terms. So what I'll do is I'll first begin with the description of what are the Baul traditions and what exactly do we mean by the Baul traditions, and then we'll go on reading the Baul song that is there in our syllabus. So basically Baul is a sect of saints which is they are aboriginals to the West Bengal and the modern day Bangladesh area of India in the east. They are a sect of saints. It's basically a sect who indulge in saintly songs, and since this particular unit is titled Sufi and Bhakti tradition, therefore we cannot ignore the Baul sect, which were also saints. Bauls were also saints and they narrated and sang poem on saints. So basically Bauls are firstly they are a set of folk people, but they were atheists, by the way. Within the Baul tradition you can see that there is a mix of several religions and there is no religious book related to this section of saints and their and their teaching methods, right? And their sole method of worship is basically through the various songs, right? So as I said, the Bauls are a sect in Bengal and Bangladesh area, and they sing songs related to God, but they are atheists and they do not really believe in any one particular religion. It's basically a set of heterodox what you can say mystics who are searching for the body for the God within their human body itself, right? So this quest of the Bauls to find the God within, to some extent it resembles to the eternal yearning of, you can say, the Sufis. And this is the reason why this song is also mentioned within the Sufi and the Bhakti movements in our syllabus, because there are loads of similarities between the Baul tradition and the Sufi tradition also, right? So in this particular song which is there in our syllabus, as I mentioned, it's almost impossible to trace the original author of this song, and hence it is published anonymously, right? It is an untitled song. So there is what you can say a sense of surrender to the God, but this God is neither a Hindu nor a Muslim, right? And these songs do not believe in any one organized religion. So there is no one organized religion, but rather there is a sense of equality amongst all human beings, irrespective of their caste, right? Also I can say that it will not be wrong to say that the Baul tradition is a mix of what you can say, it's a mix of Hinduism, Sufism, Yoga and Tantra as well, right? So it's also one feature of this tradition is that the people are not born in Baul traditions, like you are not born a Baul saint, right? But rather they are initiated and they are taught to become a Baul, right? So the idea of becoming a Baul is not a matter of birthright, I would say, but rather it is a matter of choice. You have to initiate yourself into that tradition. So these are some of the what you can say defining features of Baul tradition. Let's now go straight away to the poem. Let's now start reading the poem. It's a very short song, right? And line by line I'll be going through it. It just contains some 7 or 8 lines, right? So let's start reading the poem. It says, and I am reading it, I am the boat, you are the sea, and also the boatman. So you will notice that in the very first line, there is this metaphor of the boat and the sea. And it is important because the poet is saying that he is the boat and he is saying that you are the sea, right? So therefore what brings to our mind is the very common image of a boat and a sea, where a weak human being, what you can say, gullible human being, an ordinary human being, someone who is not guided, a lost human being, that human being is the boat and he is trying to find a way to reach the shore. He's trying to say, and the poet says he's trying to navigate his way into the sea of life, you can say so, right? So the poet says that you are the sea and you are the boatman, and who is this? This is the God, right? However, it's important to know that the idea of Maner Manush, right? So, the god in the Baul tradition is known as Maner Manush, right? What does this mean? This means Maner Manush means man of the heart, and this is the guru, this is the god Maner Manush, right? It is the unnamed guru and the spirit and the savior, you can say so. Also, you will notice that there is a longing for achieving this Maner Manush. It is as if he is most interested in losing himself to attain God's devotion. This is evident in the next line which I am going to read now, and he says, though you never make the shore, though you let me sink, why would I be foolish and afraid? Is reaching the shore a greater prize than losing myself with you? Very important line. Look at the next line. Is reaching the shore a greater prize than losing myself with you? What does this mean? These lines suggest clearly that there is a longing in the poet, right, for achieving this boardman. There is longing in the poet for achieving this god, this Maner Manush, as we rightly said, right? He doesn't want any material benefits in life, but he only wants to achieve the god. That is why he says that I want to lose myself in you. I don't even want to reach the shore. It's better that I lose myself with you. So, in this one particular line, one can also notice that there is a belief in the oneness of God. And what is that? That is attaining the ultimate one, attaining the ultimate God. And how will you attain the ultimate God? You will attain the ultimate God by losing yourself in that process. So, basically, for the poet, losing his identity and himself is more important than any other material benefit in life. In fact, the act of reaching the shore is concomitant to losing one's identity by merging with the god, right? So, this god is, as I just now mentioned, the boatman. He is Maner Manush. He is the man of his heart. He is the one who will guide the poet. He is the one who will guide the devotee in understanding the ultimate realities of life. And in this one line that we just now read, we can very easily see that there is a longing for achieving the Maner Manush. In fact, reaching the shore is not that important, but attaining the god is much more important for the poet. So, it's kind of a total surrender, right? Then when we talk about the total surrender, let's also look at the next line, which shows the total surrender to God. And look at this, the vulnerability. You can see that there is a sense of vulnerability and there is a sense of surrendering to the God. And look at these lines. It says, let it surge and toss me on its waves, I shall be content. So, this is very important, this line, particular line, because the poet is saying that even if his god, his Maner Manush, destroys him, tramples him, ravages him, tosses him on the waves, he shall be content with it. So, therefore, there is this sense of vulnerability, giving up one's identity, one's state, and you can see that there is a complete state of subservience, a complete state of devotion, a complete, total, ultimate surrender to the God. And that is why he is saying that I am content on just achieving you, and you do whatever you want to do with me. You can toss me, you can kick me, you can ravish me, you can trample me, you do whatever you want because I am surrendering to you. So, this is devotion and surrender of the highest level, because the poet is not expecting anything back. This is love and devotion and surrender, what you can say, to the highest level, if I can say so, right? Now, look at the last two lines of the poem, which are again very strong and very impactful. Let us now read the last lines, and he says, I live in you, whatever and however you appear. Save me or kill me as you wish, only never leave me in others' hands. So, in these lines, once again, we look at the theme of complete surrender and complete devotion and full devotion, to the boatman or the Maner Manush. So, when the poet says that it is on the god to save him or destroy him, this is basically the highest form of surrender, complete vulnerability, highest form of faith on the divine, and this is the ultimate union with the divine, when you completely and fully and wholeheartedly surrender yourself to the God. So, this is one point of complete surrender. Now, second important point which I have here to discuss is when the poet say that he lives in his God and in whichever way he appears. Therefore, there is no adherence, you can say, to any one particular religion, be it Hinduism or Islam, Christianity, I mean for any other religion. And as I had already mentioned in the beginning of this lecture, that Bauls are basically a sect of people who are sages, they are saints, they are rishis, you can call that way. But at the same time, despite this, they do not support any particular caste or any particular creed, or for that matter any particular religion. So they are humans who believe that all human beings are completely, you can say, equal. And this is important because they do not, as I mentioned, they are not born into a Baul tradition, right? They are basically, they become a Baul, and they believe in equality. Again, this is a very revolutionary idea, at a time when the entire Indian fabric was, demarcated on the basis of sectarianism was very rampant, and you either had to be of one particular religion, when religious orthodoxy and hardlining and all of these elements were there. These are some of the poets who are not born into one particular religion. They don't even believe in the system of caste, right? So these are all revolutionary ideas, right? Also, this last line which we just now read, it's also important for the next point, and that is it tells us one more aspect of the Baul tradition. And the Baul tradition is that they believe that the God is hidden in the heart of human being. It is in the soul of human being, and that every human being can try to find their own God through their own body, if and only if they put the right amount of efforts. So this God can be a savior. It can be a Hindu God, it can be an Islamic God, or a Sufi God, or a yogic God, or a tantric God, or a Christian God. It can be anything, right? So lastly, so basically he says that this God, he's willing to say that you can kill me, you can ravish me, or do whatever you want to, but just don't, leave me alone. So basically the last line of the poem means that it's a complete surrender and a full sense of surrender and devotion to the God. If you remember my previous lectures, don't you think these are the hallmarks of Sufi and Bhakti poetry? Complete subservience. So once again, those features are coming back and again, right? There is just one demand that he says, that do not leave me in anyone else's hand, right? This is the only one demand that he makes, and this is because he considers himself to be completely subservient and a full devotee to the God. So the last two lines are important, they are very impactful also, and these two lines carry the strength of the entire poem, the ending lines. So these two lines at the end of the poem, they show that the poet has now given itself completely and fully to the boatman and to the sea. So this boatman, as we know, it's Moner Manush, and the man of the heart, and whose heart is it? It's the heart of the poet and the devotee who has given himself completely and surrendered himself completely to the sea. And this is the sea of life. It's the sea of life. It's the boatman which will put him ashore, right? So it's the sea of life, and in this material world, it is the boatman, the Moner Manush, or the man of his heart, or the God, to whom he has surrendered himself, and he will carry him ashore, right? So in totality, in summary, I'll conclude this. This song is a worship song. It's basically a kind of an equivalent of a, what you can say, bhajan, a song sung by people of Baul sect and the Baul tradition. It shows the spiritual struggle of the boat in the storm of life. It's the very important, very familiar metaphor of the boat and the boatman, right? So the idea of par lagana, right? This is what the purpose of the God is. So the devotee is sitting in the boat, and he believes that God will help him, through the struggle of life, through the storm of life. And so the sea represents the storm of life. Usko par lagana hai, right? So the boat represents the life, and the sea represents the storm of life, the problems of life. The boatman represents the God, the Moner Manush, who will carry him ashore. So these metaphors, these three metaphors are important to understand the idea of the boat, the boatman, and the sea. So basically, the idea of Moner Manush is also important because he already knows that the God is within him. He is not trying to find God outwards, somewhere else. This is because, this section of Fakir, which is the Bauls, they know that, they believe in this ideology that whatever is to be searched outside will only be found within. So there is no need really to look anywhere outside. This is because the Baul sect believes that God is hidden in the heart of every human being. Moner Manush, the man of his heart. So the God is within the heart and every individual can search for him. These are some of the major ideas and themes of Baul tradition. With this, we come to the end of this lecture and also this unit, that is unit 2. This is also over, which is the Sufi and the Bhakti tradition. We discussed all the chapters of this unit in detail and we also delved in all the literary and social aspects related to the Sufi and Bhakti movements. You can watch all the videos in the playlist. I will give the link, and these are Sufi and Bhakti, we have completed the idea of Sufi and Bhakti traditions. Check out all those videos and prepare well for your incoming exams. And thank you so much for tuning in at Hansraj e-Samvaad. I'll see you very shortly with the third unit of our syllabus very soon, and we'll meet again. Thank you. Goodbye and Jai Hind.